There are doors within the human mind, ancient, hidden, dust covered by time and forgetfulness. Most walk past them every day, unaware of their existence. These are not physical gates, but thresholds of perception, and perhaps the most mysterious of them all lies nestled in the center of the brain, buried like a seed of starlight in the soil of your being, the pineal gland, a flickering crystal, a forgotten temple, the eye that sees beyond. To speak of activating this gland in 5 minutes sounds like fantasy, or worse, a trick of the New Age tongue. But suspend your disbelief just for a moment and consider this. What if the impossible were only impossible because we were taught to believe it so? What if the pineal gland is not just an anatomical relic, but a bridge between waking and dreaming, illusion and insight, body and spirit? The so-called forbidden technique is not hidden because it is too complex or too dangerous, but because it is too simple, too effective, too liberating. For in a world that thrives on distraction, to know oneself is the greatest rebellion. To see beyond the veil is to unravel the very machinery that keeps the illusion spinning. That kind of clarity terrifies systems built on control. This is not a guide in the traditional sense. It is a remembering, a mirror held up to the cosmic eye that already gazes from within you. We are not teaching you something new. We are simply helping you recall what was always yours. The pineal gland is the antenna, the lens, the gatekeeper of inner realms. It does not need years of training to awaken. Sometimes it just needs silence, intention, breath, light. 5 minutes may sound absurd to the logical mind, but to the language of the soul, where time dilates and dimensions fold, it is eternity enough. One breath held with presence can split the sky open. One moment of genuine stillness can summon the infinite. So begin here, not in skepticism, nor in blind faith, but in curiosity, as if you were peering into the mouth of a cave long sealed, feeling the whisper of forgotten winds against your skin. What stirs in that dark? What light waits in your marrow? This is the threshold. Step through it gently. Eyes closed, mind open. The real begins here. To explore the activation of the pineal gland is to explore the interplay between perception and truth. Beneath the surface, we encounter recurring motifs, patterns as old as the stars, embedded in the human psyche like archetypal tattoos. The third eye, the pineal gland, is more than just a gland. It is a myth, a symbol, and a cipher. One of the core themes is that of veils and illusions. The world we navigate is layered in masks, social roles, mental filters, emotional traumas, cultural constructs. The pineal gland is not merely the gateway to intuition, it is the eye that sees through masks. In the ancient traditions of Egypt, it was symbolized by the Eye of Horus, a representation not only of spiritual vision but of protection and healing. In Hindu lore, it is the Ajna chakra, the center of foresight, clarity, and non-dual awareness. To awaken the pineal gland is to rupture the membrane between reality and appearance. It is to recognize the machinery behind the stage play of daily life. The very act of turning attention inward, of silencing the reactive mind, activates a quantum shift. You stop reacting to life and begin communing with it. You no longer simply see with your eyes, but through them, into the architecture beneath form. Another pillar is the reclamation of sovereignty. The forbidden aspect of this technique is not some ancient curse or external danger. It is forbidden because it decentralizes power. When the pineal gland is activated, even momentarily, what you gain is not information, but gnosis, a knowing that bypasses language, that shatters dependency, that makes gurus and gatekeepers obsolete. It is the direct experience of divinity, unmediated by dogma. This activation, this 5-minute descent into the sacred, is a reunion. You meet yourself not as a construct, but as consciousness itself. The technique, stripped of its mystical marketing, is profoundly simple. breathwork, darkness, visualization, intention. Yet within that simplicity lies a balm of insight. The pineal gland, long calcified by toxins both literal and spiritual, begins to tremble like a bell remembering its sound. And so, the forbidden technique becomes a paradox, hidden in plain sight, powerful in its subtlety, radical in its gentleness. You do not need to climb mountains or sit for decades to open the third eye. Sometimes all it takes is 5 minutes of absolute honesty with yourself. Imagine a child, alone in a desert, who stumbles upon a crystal buried in the sand. The sun burns high above, yet the crystal hums with an inner light. She picks it up. For a moment, the world tilts, not with dizziness, but with a shift so deep it feels like remembering. That crystal is her pineal gland. That desert is her life. And the light, it is the vision she had before forgetting. Such are the myths we live over and over. The pineal gland appears in story after story disguised as sacred stones, magic mirrors, forbidden scrolls. In fairy tales, it is the enchanted eye. In heroes' journeys, it is the sword pulled from stone. Not a weapon, but a key. Always hidden, always waiting. There is an old story of a man who sought the stars. He climbed the tallest mountain, consulted sages, studied ancient texts, but no light came. In despair, he sat one night in silence. No rituals, no striving, just breath. And then he saw it, not outside but within, a galaxy behind his brow, a spiral of light coiled like a serpent in stillness. The moment he stopped seeking, he arrived. This is the paradox of the third eye. It opens not by force, but by surrender. Symbolically, the pineal gland is often associated with the serpent, the kundalini energy coiled at the base of the spine. When aroused, it rises through the chakras, striking the pineal gland like a tuning fork. Ancient Egypt carved this wisdom into stone. The cobra on the brow of pharaohs was not decoration, but declaration. I see, it says, not with these eyes, but with the eye that sleeps in man. In dream cultures, the third eye is the bridge between waking and vision. It is said to govern the liminal space, the twilight between breath in and breath out, between the word spoken and the word felt. In this space, all visions are born, and, perhaps, all worlds. Thus, the pineal gland is not simply an anatomical curiosity, it is the altar of perception, and every time we sit in stillness, eyes closed, breath deep, we bow before that altar. We remember the forgotten temple. We touch the crystalline eye that sees eternity through the veil of time. And so we ask, what do you do after the eye opens? How do you walk through the world with such sight? The pineal gland's activation is not a destination, but a beginning. It is not a one-time event, but a living awareness. You return to your ordinary life, yes, but nothing is truly ordinary anymore. Your senses sharpen, your intuition strengthens, but most of all, your relationship to truth deepens. The truths you once read about, you now feel. You begin to see through conversations, not to manipulate, but to understand. Words carry hidden patterns and your inner eye begins to trace them. You notice the subtle energy behind actions. You hear what is not said, and in doing so you respond from a place of wisdom rather than reaction. You might still wake up to bills, deadlines, or heartbreak, but you carry a silent sanctuary within, a place untouched by the noise, and that changes everything. The panic softens. The drama dissolves faster. You no longer identify with the storm. You become the sky behind it. Perhaps the greatest gift of activating the third eye is this. You learn to listen, not just to others, but to life itself. You realize that everything is speaking, a glance, a bird call, the wind against your cheek. You start to live in relationship with reality, instead of running from or controlling it. You may be drawn to cleaner living, more sunlight, fewer toxins. The pineal gland, once awakened, becomes sensitive to harmony. It does not demand dogma, but it prefers clarity. And so, you begin to refine. Not because you must, but because your soul craves alignment. You may find yourself drawn to synchronicities, small shimmering signs that confirm you are not alone. These are not hallucinations. They are echoes from the quantum field, responding to your coherence. The world reflects your vibration more directly. It becomes a mirror, not a maze. And in moments of silence when you sit alone, you may feel it again, the pulse in your brow, the warm hum of inner sight. That is the eye, gently opening, not to escape life, but to enter it fully. There is a moment, just before dawn breaks, when the sky is a deep indigo and the world holds its breath, when something ancient stirs behind your forehead. You may not notice it at first. It doesn't cry out or shake the walls of your mind. It waits, patiently, like the moon behind clouds, ever present though hidden. This is the nature of your inner eye, the third eye, the seat of insight, the cradle of intuition. Not a gift to be earned, but a birthright to be remembered. In the end, to activate your pineal gland in 5 minutes is not a parlor trick, not a spiritual shortcut, nor a viral technique. It is a ritual of remembrance, one that collapses time and illusion and in a single breath returns you to your origin. That moment of activation may be brief, yes, but within it resides the entire spiral of creation, stillness, presence, knowing, being, and once you have touched that point, nothing is ever quite the same. You begin to sense that reality is layered, that behind every passing moment hums a deeper frequency, like the bassline of a cosmic song. You walk through the world no longer as a mere observer or consumer, but as a conscious participant, an artist painting on the canvas of the eternal now. This shift is not loud, it is not boastful. It is a quiet revolution of the soul. To awaken the third eye is not to gain power over others. It is to release the illusion of needing it. It is not to float above the world in detachment, but to kneel in the soil of the human experience with reverence. It is not to see into others' secrets, but to unveil your own. To gaze inward with such honesty that even your shadows feel safe to surface. That is the courage of true vision. That is what the forbidden technique truly reveals. Not forbidden because it is dangerous, but because it is liberating. And in a world addicted to control, liberation is the greatest threat of all. You may ask, what now? What happens after the eye is opened? You live. Not in some grandiose rebranding of your life, not in abandoning your routines or moving to a monastery, but in presence, in simplicity, in authenticity. You brush your teeth while aware of the miracle of water. You listen when others speak, not merely to reply, but to receive. You walk barefoot on the earth and feel its pulse meet yours. You breathe, and you know you are breathing. And that is enough. You begin to teach without teaching. You inspire without trying. You love without conditions. Because the eye that has seen the truth no longer fears what it cannot control. It has found the axis of peace, and it rests there. And so the journey continues, not in fireworks but in embers, glowing softly, illuminating a path you always carried within you. There is no final key, no secret formula. The forbidden technique is merely a gate, and now you have passed through it. What lies beyond is not certainty, but awakening, the kind that grows root by root, breath by breath, vision by vision. Let this be your invitation, not just to see, but to be, not just to awaken, but to remain awake. Let the inner eye guide you back to yourself, over and over again, until self and cosmos become indistinguishable, and you stand at the center of your life with reverence and wonder. You have always had the key. Now, you have remembered the door.